Mary Kissel showing me pictures of Hollywood, Florida. I don't know these things. Mary's a Floridian, so she understands.
Beautiful state.
Beautiful, and it's a beautiful beach. It's got Palm Beach.
Yeah, it's not as nice as Jupiter,
palms,
but it's okay.
Not as nice as Jupiter, but it is Florida, and that's where the Republicans gathered, the elite of the party, those who spend their lives devoted to the party in the various states, the chairs, the deputy chairs, all the operatives, gathered in these last 2 days. And David Drucker, the Washington Examiner, is here. He's just back from Hollywood, Florida. Bill Whalen of the Hoover Institution continues with us from Palo Alto, California. David, welcome back. The mood, the morale, did it exist? Is everybody eating to calm their nerves, or are they all acting very cool? Good evening to you, David.
Good evening, John. And they're still meeting. They'll be meeting through Saturday morning. You know, they were cool. I'd say they were keeping their cool, and they were pretty realistic and straight-laced. Nobody was, nobody was looking for a lifeboat, but nobody thought that they had it easy either. I think you had to sort of read between the lines in talking to people publicly on the record. Trump's not a problem. There's a lot good that can happen with Trump. Cruz isn't a problem. There's a lot good that can happen with Cruz. And privately, they were a little bit more honest in their assessment. They understand the problems, particularly that the front runner brings, the risks that he brings to the ticket in the fall. They, like parts of Cruz, but let's face it, Cruz for many of them wasn't a first choice. And so what they're trying to do is do what they can and not worry about what they don't have control over. What they have control over is a convention and making sure the rules are followed and defending the party and its processes. And the candidates and the campaigns are something that they simply can't control. It's in the hands of the voters. The way the candidates behave and the campaigns are run are in the hands of those operations. That's something they can't control. And so they're trying not to worry about that and just focus on what they can do.
David, there seems to be confusion over who exactly writes the rules for the convention. Are the rules written today at the meeting that you were at, or will there be an entirely different set of people physically at the convention in July writing the actual rules for who can compete and under which terms? Yeah,
so first of all, the Rules Committee today was the Rules Committee for the Republican National Committee, and absolutely nothing happened, as I predicted and some of my colleagues who understand this stuff. Every 4 years, the rules for the convention are written by the Convention Rules Committee, which is made up of 112 delegates, not RNC members. It's not an RNC committee. It's a Rules Convention Committee. Now, some of the people on the Convention Rules Committee may be RNC members because by virtue of being an RNC member, you're a delegate. But this is how it's handled. There is a lot of misconceptions. Some of the rules never change. They're a part of the rule book, and they're transferred over. But every 4 years, there are tweaks, there are proposals, and that will happen this year. I'm sure that the Cruz campaign and the Trump campaign will look to have rules put in that make it easier for them. Kasich will obviously try and have a say in all of this, and we'll see what happens.
Bill, you have a question for David, just back from Hollywood.
Good. Two questions for you, David. First of all, do you get the sense from the group down in Hollywood just how they feel about the convention itself in terms of who's going to show up? Just anecdotally, I talked to friends in Washington who normally be doing business at the convention. They're not going, and it's not so much a Trump effect as that members of Congress are not going, and so they don't see an opportunity to do business, so they're not going to go there. I think John McCain said the other day he's not going to take part in the convention. So is that affecting these proceedings in any way? And then the second question is, almost every day there's a story about a white knight, somebody who's going to come to the rescue of the party. I think Mitch Daniels, the former governor of Indiana, was floated the other day. Was there any of that kind of buzz down in Florida?
No, don't believe white knight stories. The only way a white knight happens, to take your second question first, is if the convention ends up completely deadlocked. And, I mean, we're talking multiple ballots. And if it just becomes clear that none of the final three candidates can get this thing done. In terms of people going to the convention and business, I mean, what I can tell you from my own reporting is that several members of Congress, but particularly senators, aren't going because of Trump. And they're and corporate sponsors are having second thoughts about spending money on the convention because of Trump. And it's potentially a problem because the federal government no longer appropriates money for the Democratic and Republican conventions because the Republican-led House did away with that purposely because they thought that there was better use for federal money than paying for these political events. And so it is an issue. It is a potential problem. And in some cases, you'll have members that go and get out of Dodge quick. And it's because they don't know what they're going to get. They don't know what he's going to say or how he's going to say it. And in some cases, they have voters that have all sorts of opinions, and they don't want to be in a position where they're angering 50% of their voters or a third of their voters. And so the best way to handle this volatile situation is just bug out.
Right.
David, isn't there another possibility here, which is that the party is following a process, it's orderly, some members might not like the outcome, but we go to the convention and it's quite an orderly convention. I know Mr. Trump keeps speaking as if it would be otherwise, but to date, hasn't the GOP followed its plan? Isn't the system working?
Well, yeah, the system works, and I think the convention itself will be orderly in that rules will be followed. But I think there is the potential for a lot of blow-ups and a lot of drama because, there are different ways to interpret the rules. Look, I spent the last couple of days talking to a lot of RNC rules experts, members of the committee that have been steeped in this for years. And
we have 15 seconds, David. Go ahead.
All sorts of interpretations, and so that could lead to a lot of potential outcomes.
David Drucker of the Washington Examiner, just back from Hollywood, Florida, the scene of the still ongoing Republican National Committee meeting. Bill Whalen of the Hoover Institution, Palo Alto, California, Mary Kissel of Florida and New York. Here with me of the Wall Street Journal editorial board, I'm John Batchelor.